I looked it up, and they were lying about me.
Same thing happened to me, brother. I was pissed and scared.
And I bet if the listeners look it up, it'll be exactly the same for them too.
No question. Episode 221 of the Dan Bradbury podcast, where we talk about the key 6 fundamental business blocks that make a company successful or fail, depending upon how good or bad they are in these skills. And today's is all about legal, my friend.
And I just paid a big whopping legal bill, so I'm well attuned to.
Should I have given you a trigger warning before I introduced the topic?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I mean, look, it is annoying, but at the same time, if I think about how much money they've just saved me because we won, so I'm actually grateful to pay the bill. And my experience is, Topher, the bigger you get in business, the more you're going to need a lawyer on retainer. It's normally helpful.
Yeah, I've actually got a buddy of mine who is a fractional attorney specifically for companies that are too big. They're big enough that they need an attorney, but they're too small to afford one full time. It's
right,
brilliant,
so
brilliant
it's
subscription
not
model.
in-house counsel, but it's like a
it's like a membership fee. It's great.
Right, yeah. Well, you gotta stay on top of this stuff. That's why we're here, right? Because it's called net profit for the reason. It's the net of all your wins and all your losses. So these things are going to hit you, and the quicker you're growing, the more likely it's going to suddenly come out of the woodwork.
Well, speaking of fast growth and stuff coming out of the woodwork, you were telling me about an interesting story about a mayor down in Australia.
Oh yeah, this is unbelievable. I mean, this in the world of AI, but basically this mayor is taking action against, was it ChatGPT?
It was ChatGPT, yeah.
Because he, like most people, back in the day, 20 years ago, used to Google yourself, and now what people do is they ask ChatGPT about themselves or ask your other AI bots are available.
Yes.
And he asked him, and it wrongly stated that he'd been in prison for fraud.
Something like that, like bribery or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So some terrible indictment that was
stuff that you don't want when you're running for office.
Yeah,
that's
correct.
For sure.
That was absolutely not true. It wasn't even close to reality. It was something like, it wasn't even like he was accused of it and found not guilty. It was something like he testified in somebody else's case. Right, but the chatbot had wrongly put him as being the person on the stand, the accused, and then consequently he's suing them and taking action.
I think you know what? I think that's a good thing. I encourage it, and I hope more people do that, because that's what's going to, I think, start putting some regulation around this AI information age at this point in time, because right now it's kind of like the Wild Wild West, right? There's just no regulation, and I think history has proven that companies can't regulate themselves.
It's huge. I mean, look, it happened to me. I looked myself up, and it lied about me. It lied about me, and that's hugely detrimental.
Yeah. By the way, it happened to me too. It said that I was, at one point in time, it thought I was a software engineer. Another one, it said that I was an author of a book that I haven't even written, nor would I. It was crazy.
Right. And my thing was, I mean, my name's not exactly extremely rare, but it was...
Mine is, and it still screwed it up.
Right, but even still, the data didn't correlate with, my namesake.
Yeah.
So I kind of... It was all over the place. And the thing is, your reputation precedes you. Your reputation precedes you. So in the eye of the consumer, what they see online, they mistakenly believe is true in a lot of cases.
Oh, it's so true. Most people, when they, especially, I think there's a false sense of faith in ChatGPT, Bard, all the AI services. I think people inherently give them a lot more credit than they deserve.
I mean, look, I had an argument about this with an AI specialist yesterday.
I thought you were about to say, I had an argument with AI about this the other day.
Yeah, no, and he's wrong. And he's just wrong. And I think it's in the word intelligence. We've got artificial intelligence. They assume it's intelligent. No, it's not. It's a chat bot. It's been fed a large amount of data, which means in the vast majority of the cases, it's just data retrieval. It's regurgitating data that it found online.
Yeah, well, that's one piece of it for sure. Yeah.
Right. So how much garbage is there in there? I mean, this was woeful. I mean, So the question is, how do you defend against this stuff? Right? It's kind of like you need to defend your IP as if your name, your life hangs on it. I think this mayor was spot on.
Let's do this. Let's get this into a specific strategy, because one thing we always promise on this podcast that the listeners are going to walk away with at least one strategy. How do we take this information and turn this into a strategy that the listeners or the viewers can actually do to help protect themselves?
Right. I mean, there are companies that can do this for you, by the way, but I'm in favor of you doing it for yourself. Make sure that you are going out there. You are Googling yourself. You are searching your name in all the search engines and getting stuff.
And barding and ChatGPT now.
I was going to do that next. Like, you need to get on these platforms and check that it's correct and then update. It never ceases to amaze me how many companies that their basic company details, their address, their phone number, their whatever is just outright wrong, and you need to follow the appropriate processes, all the search engines, etc. Now the AI bots, there are processes of theirs that you can go through to complain about incorrect content to get it removed, because ultimately these AI companies are starting to be held accountable. So do
you think they will, though, ultimately, or will they pay off legislators enough to where they're going to be void of it? Just like social media, people aren't responsible for the content.
Well, I'm not going to go
channels.
Conspiracy theorist, but I would say it would strike me that whenever there's an immense amount of money at stake, people will fight to maintain their position of strength.
So then, yes, they will buy off the politicians.
Yes, that was a political answer I just gave. Yeah. Well, I do think that there'll be some recourse, but just enough minimally for them to justify it. But if that's the only tool that you've got, that's the route you need to go down.
Here's the sad part. I think most of these companies are going to look at that collateral damage as just an expense on the line. It's like, we know we're going to get sued, so we just have to have that in the budget.
Maybe, but what's the alternative? I mean, I've got an absolute horror story on this one.
Do share.
So, somebody that I know that shall remain nameless was falsely.
Was it Tom?
was falsely accused of child rape, right?
Oh, I know who you're talking about, and I remember that. Right. I feel my heart went out for this guy.
And this guy is just the most impeccable human being.
One of the best.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Like hands down, and so, whilst I knew my heart instantly that it wasn't true. And by the way, I said that to somebody else, and they were like, "Yeah, but do you know?"
Because
and they told
once
me
you've been accused, you're guilty.
Correct. Yeah. And then that person told me a story about how somebody he knew hadn't done it. Turned out that they had done it and were convicted. And I'm like, no, this person would never do that. Blah blah blah. Anyway, took 2 years to drag out, and then he wasn't even charged.
Yep.
There was no case to answer, no further action.
But all that shit's still online. He's been battling ever since that to get it off.
Right, because he is a minor celebrity and is friends with a couple of major A-listers. It was front page news.
It massively impacted his company negatively.
It destroyed it, because I knew some people that did business with him that said, look, I'm going to use the name Tom, and to be clear, it's not a Tom.
Right.
So affiliates with any Tom that is purely coincidental. But so said, Tom, listen, we're sorry. Like, we love you, we know you didn't do it, and professionally, we have to distance ourselves from you.
Yeah.
So it destroyed his company. Then, of course, he's dragged into having to pull together a strong defense. After all that, after nearly 2 years, CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, decided not to take action. There was no case to answer.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, it was cheaper because he didn't actually have to go to court, but he didn't get a not guilty.
I was just saying, it almost would have been better for him to get to have to pay the money and get the not guilty.
Correct.
Because
now the jury decided in 10 minutes, right? It's because it was literally a he said, she said, and the comments on it later were effectively, it was because of celebrity affiliation that the CPS even we really need to be seen to be taken this seriously.
I don't know the background on this, but was this an ex that was like a jilted ex or something that came in and did the accusation? It's so common.
They were no longer together. So I can't comment. I don't know before that, and they had a child together, right? Yep. So it was horrendous. But the point is, it cost him a fortune. He then had to have a separate legal case to regain custody because his child was young at the time.
Yeah.
I won't say her age, but was young at the time, and therefore he lost early years because
those formative years that cannot get back.
He then had to take action because the threshold for criminal, it's a higher bar than for child access, right? And then in that case, he won access back to his daughter. And the judge said this is...
Who, by the way, he lived for, this child.
Oh, correct. He said that was the only reason he didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
He told me. He said the only reason he didn't kill himself is because he knew that in the end justice, it would be seen right. Yeah. And the judge in the family court basically said this is ridiculous that it's gone this far. Yeah. Anyway, now this was some time ago, but the point is he spent a fortune with a lot of companies, lawyers, and kind of PR companies to get those articles pulled. And even now, if you Google his name plus rape, there's one newspaper who refused to take it down. They just put at the bottom of the article, so there's a full article about all the details, how they were arrested, all this kind of stuff, and at the very bottom it says,
correction.
Addendum, correction, was found... wasn't charged and no further action was taken.
Which, by the way, is irrelevant because people only read the headlines.
Right?
There should be a law that forces them to change those headlines. It's so frustrating. Ryan Holiday talked about this, by the way, in his book Trust Me, I'm Lying, which was our book of the week last week.
Yeah. So it's almost how we planned this podcast.
Wow. But we didn't plan this part. This is just divine intervention.
We planned it.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, we planned this part.
So the point being, you've got to use the tools available to you. So it's horrendous, but you need to defend your IP. You need to, if there's incorrect facts around you, some people are judging you on the basis of those facts. You need to get that stuff cleaned up. You need to get on it. You need to go on Google, search your name, put yourself in the AI chatbots, and you need to go through the various processes that you need to do to correct that.
Yeah, I was going to say, and correct it when you find the wrong things. All right, my friend, let's move on to the book of the week.
The book of the week this week is The Luxury Strategy by, I think it's Kat Farrer and Bastian, I believe the two author names. And this is really about building a brand. But it's applicable for most small business. It's better to be positioned as the premium in the market. And how the rules of marketing and that kind of positioning is often contrarian to a lot of the advice. So these are two world-leading experts in terms of building these kind of luxury brands.
Yeah.
And it absolutely applies to small business. So in terms of reputation, positioning, it's a great book.
Cool. And that's a perfect segue into the quote of the week that comes from our most quoted and most famous quotester on the planet, who famously said, reputation is like fine china. Once it's broke, it can never be repaired. Do you know who I'm referring to?
Warren Buffett.
No. We do use him a lot, but it's somebody quoted even more than Warren Buffett, but we never really know if he actually said it.
Oh yeah, I was going to say Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
That was my first thought. Damn it.
I have no idea if he said it, but that's what the internet says, so it must be true.
Yeah, quite.
All right, take us out of here, my friend.
Well, as always, if you want a better business, you need to be a better business owner.
Well said.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. 3 things you need to do now. Number 1, make sure you subscribe to this podcast so you do not miss an episode. Also, get on over to Amazon to get a copy of my latest book, Turnover is Vanity, Profit is Sanity, 9.5 Steps to Improving Your Profits and Cash Flow. Also, join our Facebook group, the Turnover is Vanity, Profit is Sanity community, to connect with other business owners.